Hi there, this is Rocky Mountain Pro referee Josh Spicer, and you're listening to RMP Radio, where pro wrestling is elevated.
Young generations out here wishing for good. My generation's on the front lines wishing they would. Give it a rest, don't test, you'll be severed for good. Don't get ahead of me. You never survive and I'm not gonna win. We've come a pretty long way. There's so much I could say. It's never really gone away. I feel it in my bones. It's like a bright light through it all. I'll never let it go.
RMP Radio is back on the air. Hi, I am your host, Mr. Fourth Row, and joining me, I've got another one of the dudes from the Dudes and Belt Chatcast. I've got the Sunday Night Savior. Sunday, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Mr. Fourth Row?
I'm hanging in there. Excited. We got a lot of crazy things, fun things happening here when it comes to the world of professional wrestling, especially in the next upcoming week. But got you on as well as all the dudes from the Dudes and Belts Chatcast. But first question I got for you out of the chute: how did you get introduced into this wacky world of professional wrestling?
So my father was a fan when I was a kid. He's somewhat fallen out since. He kind of catches it here and there now. But I grew up just watching with him. I think it's the same story a lot of people will tell you. Mm-hmm. I grew up in, I'm 38 years old, so I grew up in the peak of the Hulk Hogan era. So you see those bright colors, eat your vitamins, say your prayers, and you get hooked. I mean, I was somebody who was almost in tears when Hulk Hogan lost to Ultimate Warrior. Like I was, that was so much for me, because although I was a Warrior fan as well, nobody was gonna ever top Hogan to me when I was that young, and it just started there, and I got hooked, and it stayed, and especially I think I grew up at the best time for wrestling. I was a kid during the Hogan era. I was a teenager during the Attitude Era. Like it's just perfect scheduling out of the ages that makes the most sense. And after Hogan, I was a Stone Cold fan, like everybody else, and then it just keeps growing and growing since. And the more I've gotten into it, and the more I've watched. And now with the internet, where you can watch documentaries and all this stuff, I've learned so much more about it, and I watch it in such a different way now. But I mean, it's starts out with just red and yellow Hulk Hogan. Had my Hulk Hogan wrestling buddy, everything.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you that people around our age, plus or minus, say 12 to 15 years, we did get a good swath of the best of the wrestling, especially because it got ingrained into pop culture, things of that nature, and just so many different evolution steps that it has taken in that time period. I mean, would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you just look at the stages of wrestling, just those two alone, like that golden era, the boom era of the 80s, where every character was larger than life and bright colors and all this, and then you go just 10, 15 years later to the Attitude Era, and it's Stone Cold and The Rock just, kicking ass and taking names, and both of those end up on the cover of things like Sports Illustrated, end up on, talk shows and everything, and they both had very, very different avenues to get there, but all of it based on like you said, this wacky world of professional wrestling.
Yeah, it's so true. And I mean, that's I think that also stays instilled into us to this day, where that I like, for example, it's the character. Can the character entertain me with a great storyline, and keep my eyes on them or the particular product or promotion that they're working on or working with, and things of that nature, and and keep me encapsulated and keep me coming back.
Right, exactly. I mean, Anybody can put on, I say anybody, but like these guys that are on TV, most of them can put on a great match just about every time they're out. But I don't tune in just to see a great match. I tune in to be entertained by everything about it. I want to be brought in, encapsulated is a great word for it, but by everything that's going on, not just the physical nature of a suplex, a body slam, and a 1-2-3.
Yeah. So another word that you just mentioned, or one philosophy, is consumption. The way that we consume wrestling now is so different. What is it that you enjoy about the different ways that we consume wrestling? And also, because of that, do you think there is just way too much for one single person to be able to know everything?
For the most part, yes. There is, I'm going to get to the second part of the question first. There is way too much for one person to know everything, but the good part about it is just about all of the wrestling you see out there has some differences. So whatever type and whatever hits your fancy, you can find out there. There's something for you. Mm-hmm. If you like more old school style, go watch NWA Power. If you like more today's, high flying, fast paced style, there's AEW. If you like that more traditional storyline and characters are the thing, there's your old classic standby WWE. So, I mean, and if you like seeing people just grow at the business, you can watch the indies, and you can watch that from everywhere. Like, RMP is a big thing in my life at this point, and I live 2,000 miles away.
Yeah.
From the Wimmer Arena, and yet I get to watch them every week, and they're in all things a smaller indie promotion compared to all these other plays, compared to the AEWs and the WWEs, but yet I get to watch them every week because of the internet and how we can consume wrestling these days.
Yeah. When it comes to consumption, what beyond just like tuning in, watching a weekly program such as Rocky Mountain Pro Ignition, Rocky Mountain Pro Charged, what else do you like to do when it comes to wrestling? You mentioned documentaries. Do you like maybe the reality TV that is out there? What is it that you do and that you like, and what else do you kind of tune into as well?
I'm big into the documentaries. So whenever I see, we get most of them on what used to be the WWE network, now on the WWE side of Peacock. But you can, like, I'll watch, like, I used to get the DVDs all the time. Things like the rise and fall of WCW was a big one for me. But I'll watch, the story of Eric Bischoff, the story of Paul Heyman, like all these, stories of how these guys became what they became, and like Mick Foley has a great backstory. Stone Cold Steve Austin is a great one as well, where he, being trained down in Dallas, and then, gets fired by WCW, just comes in as the ringmaster and then becomes the biggest star in the business. I love watching that. That intrigues me so much, like the backstory of these guys, and that's why these documentaries and the backstory of these companies too. I watched the one on the Von Erichs and WCCW. Like, that's huge to me to watch stuff like that. How guys like that can have places like that can have such a high peak and such a low low at the same, almost side by side.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I love those documentary too. And what I found as well when it comes to because I remember when the DVDs, like you mentioned, when the DVDs would come out, and it would be, part of, it used to be back in the day, Tuesdays would be media day released, your new movies, yes, your new DVDs, your new books,
new video games,
things of all that nature. And I remember back in the day when, they were talking about, okay, the new WWE documentary, or they finally put out the pay-per-view on DVD that happened, a few months ago, 6 months ago, or whatever their time frame was from the time it actually happened, yep, to actually put it out on video. But one thing I've also kind of noticed, though, that now that some of this stuff is kind of going straight to Peacock, the amount of content and the amount of episodes I think has increased, because I know, and they've kind of made them into like miniseries.
Yes.
I mean, what do you think about that?
See, I love that stuff too. So, from the early days of the WWE Network, it sounds funny saying that, considering it's only 8 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
But like they had shows like Table for Three and Ride Along and ones like those and those things like that enthrall me. I mentioned that I love seeing these characters and they're the ones that bring me in to watch wrestling, but I also love to see what's behind the character a little bit too, and what makes up the man or woman that created and plays said character. It's no different than you go to watch a movie or TV show. If your favorite TV show is Breaking Bad, you want to learn about Bryan Cranston and how he got into playing Walter White. You know what I mean? Like things like that. So when I watch Table for Three and they have Christian, Mick Foley and Edge on, and they're just kind of joking about all their stories about riding together and traveling and all this stuff, that all intrigues me.
Yeah, so true. And yeah, you mentioned, it's funny how you mentioned Bryan Cranston, because it's funny how he was one of those people that was like in bit parts of sitcoms like a King of Queens, and then of course the big break was the Malcolm in the Middle, playing the husband, and then boom, explosion,
Yeah, into a completely different type of, think of the dad from Malcolm in the Middle to Heisenberg.
Yeah, that's a 180 degree.
Yeah, so to give you a parallel to wrestling, that's red and yellow Hulkamaniac Hulk Hogan to black and white Hollywood Hulk Hogan NWO.
Yeah,
like that, to me, that's a very similar way to cross paths.
Yeah, it's that's so true. Another thing I wanted to ask you too is, if I missed anything, I apologize, but you're also you got your eye, and you're kind of big onto is it New Japan? You like doing that too? So
I'm not as big now. So I was following it a lot more back before AEW. So when there was, Kenny Omega and even AJ Styles and guys like that were all over there. I was following along a lot more, trying to watch as much as I could. But AEW in a way, shape, or form kind of stole some of the the guys that I like to watch over there. Away. So obviously there's new guys that have been elevated, the Jay Whites, the Will Ospreys, guys like that, but I never had that connection to them at first, so like it was hard for me to kind of get back into it. I'll still watch it. I'll still, if somebody says, hey, you got to check out this match, or that type of thing, I tune in, but I don't quite follow as much as I did.
Yeah, I get you. And the way that I know I'm able to access it, no pun intended, didn't even think that, is through Access TV, and sometimes even if you set your DVR schedule to record that thing, it kind of changes, and it's kind of like a moving target sometimes. So sometimes your DVR does not grab the right time and the right episode for you, and so it makes it difficult to stay up. So.
Yeah, you end up getting you see a new episode pop up on the DVR, and it ends up being one that you've already seen before, and you're like, I guess I don't have to watch this one. I've watched it before.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what I do is though, because there's so much to consume now, that it's like now I've got of course Rocky Mountain Pro I got to keep up with, and then everything else that I do. So now I've got my friends that I know that are real big into. For example, I got a friend here in Colorado that she's really big into New Japan. So she's my source when I need to go, hey, I need to ask you something, or what you just said. Hey, she will say, hey, you need to see this, and in that. That kind of thing as well. And she's always excited because we have a promotion here in Colorado that brings in a lot of those kind of people that she sees a lot, and she just totally flips her lid when because they're always a surprise when they come in. The promotion doesn't necessarily announce a lot of people that come up. They like to keep a lot of surprises to pop the crowd at the Oriental Theater here. So it is fun. So I enjoy just seeing her reaction to the surprises, and sometimes I have to kind of query. I mean, I know enough to know like maybe who people are, but not a lot of their stuff. And then, but so as I always have my people that help my my knowledge base, basically, I guess is the best way to explain it.
Yeah, and in our group of dudes and belts, that for us that's the Coastal Crusader. He's big into New Japan. He's big into kind of keeping his eye on everything. So in our group chat, there'll be, hey, you guys should check out this match, or this guy's going to be on, Impact this week, or stuff like that. And that's the way I kind of keep abreast with it. Is he's pretty good with popping in with big things that are happening on the scene that aren't necessarily in the main eye that I look at it, which is, for the most part these days, I'm paying most of my attention to WWE, AEW, and Rocky Mountain Pro.
Yeah. So I asked all the other dudes about this. See if your answer is similar. How did you meet the dudes, the rest of the dudes?
I mean, so the rest of the dudes, for me, it started with Marky Pins. I've known Marky for a very long time. We grew up in the same city, just outside of Boston, and he's a couple years older than me. He was in the same grade as my sister, but we would in like elementary school and stuff. We would play like the school organized like after school sports, the street hockeys and flag footballs and stuff. So I've known him since I was probably, let's figure out the math here a little bit. I was probably in the range of 10 or 11 years old when I met Marky. So I've known him for closing in on 30 years now. And not to say that we were super close at that point, but we were friendly. And then later on, he ended up becoming really good friends with other good friends of mine, and we became much tighter at that point.
Yeah.
And then the other three guys, Johnny, Triple I, and Coastal, all in some way, shape, or form related to the Candlepin bowling community, which I know you guys have talked about a little bit with some of the other guys. We're all Candlepin bowlers, which is a big Northeast thing. Myself, Marky, and Triple I are on the same team in our Friday night league. Johnny used to be on the team before his work schedule changed. Coastal, obviously, he's a few hours away, but we bowl in a lot of the same tournaments and things like that. With and against him as well, and so it's all just gone through that. But like years ago, me and Marky would be in the same bowling league, and like I'd go to his house before bowling, we'd get something to eat, we'd go to bowl, and we'd go back to his house afterwards. And then as I'm like going, all right, I'm gonna head home, he'd walk out and have a cigarette, and we'd chat for a little bit, and wrestling would come up, and we'd talk for an hour and a half and not even realize that he'd go through a half a pack of cigarettes while we're just standing outside chatting about wrestling. So, I mean, it's just natural for us just to sit around and talk wrestling. So eventually Johnny just said, let's put it on camera.
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah. Let's make content.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it been like for you, going from there, just having conversations with friends, to actually sharing your passion to the rest of the world?
It is different because obviously when you're just shooting the breeze with your friends, it's just whatever you talk about. We got when we do it on the dudes and belts, we got to do it with a little more structure. We got to make it make sense to the people that are listening, and watching. And now with the partnership with Rocky Mountain Pro, where we're doing things like Recharge. I am personally not on Reignited just because of my work schedule and everything, but I do Recharged, and where but the way we structure it is we're watching the show, we're talking about what we just saw. It's a post show, so it's just a completely different thing. So where we're doing something very different on Thursdays than we do on Sundays, and also what they do on Tuesdays as well. We're all very different in a way, shape, or form. So it's actually to me, a little bit more entertaining to do it that way. Sundays are usually a little more loosey-goosey, talk about whatever, unless we have a specific topic, or like this past Sunday that we had a slew of interviews, which was really, really fun. So I like the idea where it's not just the same thing all the time. But again, we have to do it with a little more structure than it was when we were just sitting outside shooting the breeze, talking about it with nobody listening.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I totally get that. Yeah, you kind of have to, not necessarily just go on and drither about the one particular thing, because, you want to keep in this particular case, keep the viewers interested in what you're talking about, because they may not be interested in what you're talking about currently, but yeah, you may have something a little bit down the road, in the proverbial outline that somebody might be interested in, and you'll get their ears and eyes to you at that point.
Yeah, and then the biggest difference is with them watching and chat being a thing.
Yeah,
we have to interact with. Well, not we have to. We get to interact with them. Where if we're kind of, either going down a path where we're not really making any sense or whatever, somebody can pop right in and say, well, what about this? Or I prefer this, and we can kind of interact with them. And that's to me, the best part is that, when the chat gets involved and is basically part of the show, that to me, that means two things. That means they're engaged, they're liking what they're seeing and what they're hearing from us. So it engages them, but it also means that if they're engaged like that, they're going to come back and watch and listen next week too. Because, if I watch a streamer and I type something into the chat and he responds and we almost kind of have a conversation through it, it makes me want to, pay more attention to them and watch them and listen to them more. So, I mean, it's such a big thing to be able to interact with the chat. And that's why Twitch is such a interesting platform to do something like the Dudes and Belts Chatcast on.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's almost tailor-made for you guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So kind of, we've already kind of got the answer about how Dudes and Belts found Rocky Mountain Pro, but the question I got for you when it comes to that, what was your first impressions, those first few episodes that you watched of Rocky Mountain Pro?
So it was interesting to me. So, like you said, you already kind of figured out how we found them and they found us. Yeah. We were just doing our show, and I believe it was Yaden under the Rocky Mountain Pro umbrella was streaming and rated us, and then got into our chat and talked to us for a little bit, and then we've eventually had an interview with him and all that. Well, so what I ended up doing, this was during pandemic era where either I was home all the time or I slowly went back to work a couple days a week. I was home a lot, and Yaden had mentioned their Rocky Mountain Rewind, where they would show older shows. So I ended up tuning in, and I wouldn't necessarily watch it religiously, but I would catch it and watch it. And I was intrigued, very, very intrigued with the fact that a promotion that before that I had never heard of, that was, like I mentioned before, on the smaller scale of promotions, could put on a show that was good, and it would have a crowd, especially if you kind of caught it during like the Quarry era of when they were doing Charged. The crowd would be into it and fighting with arguing with the heels and cheering on the baby faces. To me, I was very intrigued right away. And then like you happen to notice some of the people that were on the show, like Abaddon, like Dozer, that we now recognized on national TV. All those things were really, really added up to me going, I am definitely want to watch more of this, and I can't wait till they go back to, producing new content, because they went through a stretch because of the pandemic of not producing content. I couldn't wait, and then when Yaden, it wasn't too long after we hooked up with them that Yaden said that they were going to be having a new taping with obviously no crowd, and we couldn't wait to watch it.
Yeah, so true. Those rewinds that you watched, and you mentioned you got to watch a lot of the Corys, which is kind of where I started with Rocky Mountain Pro. Actually, just 1 week before the Quarry, 1 week NRW, next week it was RMP. that's where I started, which is really crazy that I got 1 week of NRW, and now NRW is back, which is kind of crazy. Yep. You have any highlights, favorite things that you saw, any of those Corey shows that come top to mind?
I can't think of any specifics. Because when I first was watching that stuff, I didn't necessarily know who a lot of the wrestlers were at the time. I was just watching wrestlers wrestle and interact with the crowd as well. So like some of the names I won't necessarily remember there or specific matches. They don't really necessarily stick out. But the thing that really I really noticed and caught the most was just that interaction with the crowd and how the crowd was. You know, you go to a lot of local wrestling shows and the crowd's just kind of there. And here with Rocky Mountain Pro, the crowd gets involved, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean, and the Quarry was a fantastic place. I mean, it's over in the Jeffco Fairgrounds. It was just kind of a different place that you don't see wrestling at a lot, because a lot of times independent wrestlings is at a bar or something like that, or a restaurant, or kind of some a YMCA, a school gym, all the unfortunately proverbial bad things that we've grown up with, and I think everybody's trying to do better by getting into where Rocky Mountain Pro's got its own building. Another promotion here is actually at where a lot of bands go to. It's a music venue, which works out really well for them because they can do the stage and everything, which is fantastically set up. So it's kind of cool to see that everybody kind of upping their game when it comes to that. And speaking of upping the game, what's kind of been that you've seen the progression when you guys first got your eye on Rocky Mountain Pro, like you said, in the pandemic era, which was kind of really weird to like now. What's intriguing you or what's exciting you just from then? I mean, either whether it's production, storylines, whatever. What's going on in your mind on that?
So I think they've, even just in the short period of time that I've been watching, I think they've advanced in every facet. Production is number one. Production values are 1,000 times better, and they were decent before, but they've been so good, especially over these last 6 or 8 months. They've been so much better. But I mean, storylines keep getting deeper and deeper and more entangled, and so the storylines now, you take a butterfly effect and you take one little thing out, and it'd have to change the storylines for a bunch of different, a bunch of the different storylines would have to change because of one little thing changed somewhere else. And I love that about wrestling, is when everything kind of intertwines in a little way. Like we saw the whole thing with how, the rise and fall of the Wake. Yeah. There was so much intertwined with that, and that was fantastic storytelling there. But even just the in-ring wrestling, I liked it before, but I mean, you guys, the RMP has brought in a lot of outside talent, the Sledges and the Marty Casauses and guys like that. Now, not that they haven't been involved in the past before, but these are guys that have gone on to make bigger names for themselves, and now they're coming back. And plus all the some of the Texas guys. We saw Justin Taylor and Bruce Wayans put on one hell of a match not that long ago at what was that, Peak of the Pack. Yeah. And then you add in, I mean, there's some fantastic in-house guys. I mean, Oren Veidt is amazing. Echo. I look at the advancements of Owen and Drake of Full Send. Those guys, go watch Owen and Drake when they first kind of made their RMP debuts, and watch them now, and they're vastly different performers. So I mean, it's everything all involved. But like I said, if I had to pick one thing, it is production. It's just so much crisper, cleaner, clearer now. Yeah,
well, and funny you mentioned that Oren and Drake, and I think their debuts were in the pandemic area. So talk about going from absolute a clean slate to where they are now.
Oh yeah, it if you went back to last year's Peak of the Pack, the very first Peak of the Pack, and watch David Drake in that. I can't even off the top of my head think of who his partner was. I'd have to go back.
Jumbo, I think.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they formed a tag team after that. That's right.
Yeah.
And you just watch that match and watch him in the ring, and everything seemed like he had to think his way through it. He had to. He didn't know what the next step was, so he had to think about it and then go do it. It made everything look a little forced. Now you see him in the ring and everything's smooth, clear. He already knows what he's doing long before he does it. It's such a vast difference in a year's time.
Yeah, so true. Another thing, I always like to step back and dissect a few things that my interview subject is. One thing they say kind of entangled. The Fall of the Wake that we've had that now. Now we've got this, Damon and JK Pop are still kind of doing their things, and it's always like, are they, will they ever? There's always been teasing of like, sometimes they work together for the greater good of themselves, of what they're trying to accomplish at one time, and then the next week it's they're out for them collective selves, for whatever reasons. What do you think about that? Because even that's kind of fresh per se, that those kind of things kind of also kind of still kind of simmer and you don't know if the flame is going to be brought up again.
Well, from what I can tell, JK Pop and Damon Ace as separate entities are always going to do what's best for JK Pop and Damon Ace as separate entities. If it means working together for each of them to better themselves, I think that door is open. But in no way do I think that Damon will do anything just to help out JK Pop, or JK Pop will do anything just to help out Damon. They'd have to have their own gain from it. Yeah. As we saw at Peak of the Pack when JK Pop made Damon look like they were on his side, and then they turned their back on him and attack him and to get him and Balaam eliminated. So they've shown their true colors. I think but I also think both entities understand that if one's helping them, it's for their good, not like if JK Pop's helping Damon knows it's for JK Pop's advancement and vice versa.
Yeah, so true. So we got a huge event coming up here, Milestone 12 for Rocky Mountain Pro, and there's a lot of things that are kind of going for Rocky Mountain Pro, and one of the things I'm most excited for is something that you kind of also alluded to, things that have been kind of way callback, but the match that most intrigues me right now is Mercury or Yaden versus Curtis Cole, because they've been on again, off again. They had that big match a few years at Never Broken, and everything's cool, but now it's back, again, Peak of the Pack, last, that, and what happened after that. But what do you got? What are you excited for Milestone 12 this year?
I mean, so far, obviously we don't know the whole card quite yet, but everything looks to be pretty good. I mean, you get, we mentioned earlier about Martin Casaus, being a guy that's has worked with RMP in the past, gone on to bigger national success. Now he's back, and now he's in the main event of Milestone against Bruce Wayans. And anybody that's watched RMP over the last few years knows that Bruce Wayans, whether he's in the main event or not, Bruce Wayans is the main event, and he will let you know that. Just ask him. So I'm very, very, very intrigued for that. Obviously, Cole and Yaden, we saw them put on a hell of a match at Never Broken last year, but that ended up in a time limit draw.
Yeah.
So we got to find out. We never got to see who the better man really was, and I think that's probably why they were able to stay together and go and reach that mountaintop again of winning the tag titles again.
Yeah.
Because I think if one of them won, there would have been some ego going and some hurt feelings going there. But I think if I had to pick anything right now as the one match I really, really am intrigued by, it's Atiba versus Steven Ashburn for the NRW title. And we don't even, the NRW title, it only gets defended at the pay-per-views, doesn't get defended on Charged or Ignition. And it's NRW stands for No Rules Wrestling, so there's going to be some sort of stipulation for this match that hasn't been announced yet. But
Yeah.
I am curious about that. Anybody who's watched Dudes and Belts knows how we feel about Atiba. We created we didn't create, but we led to the creation of a Twitch emote of hashtag sign Atiba. We are very, very high on him. Last year at the Colorado Cup event, because there was a separate Colorado Cup and Milestone was on separate days at the Colorado Cup event.
Yeah.
There was the Dudes and Belts dream match, and it was Atiba versus Echo. So that was put together because we talked about it on our show, like, oh, that would be great because we love both of those guys. And they put that, and Rocky Mountain Pro was good enough to put that on and call it the Dudes and Belts dream match. So we love Atiba, and we love to bash on Stephen Ashburn. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I'm sure every dude will be rooting for Atiba in that match. But I think that match, Ashburn has proven time and time again how good he really is, and there's a reason why he does carry that NRW championship at the moment. So I think that match might be the one that tears the house down.
Yeah, and and since we don't, I agree with you. And since we don't know what the stipulation is, we don't know, which way, the I'm doing fan service here. The balance of the scales is going to be tipping into one of the combatants in this match.
Correct. So obviously, if it was something like a submission match, I think that would go in Stephen Ashburn's side because his finishing move is the system lock, an Anaconda Vice, which is a submission. If it went into something like a last man standing, which we saw Atiba beat Corrente in it at Milestone last year, I think that goes more into Atiba's style. So it's all going to depend on what that stipulation ends up being, and when that gets announced. Like I mentioned it this past, I believe it was just this past Thursday on Recharge. I said they might wait till both guys are in the ring to announce what it is. I mean,
no prep.
Yeah, exactly. And that could change the tide of who becomes the favorite just by that fact alone.
Yeah, that's so true. I would love to see that because there'd be no advantage either way, and you're just gonna have to make it go from where you're at right there and just go. Yeah. So like you mentioned too, the Colorado Cup is going to be part of Milestone this year. We don't know how many people are going to be in it. We don't know who's going to be in it. I mean, we can guess. What are your hopes that who would you like to see win it? Who you think you might win it? And then also, you have any people that you would pop for if they walked through that curtain and entered in the Colorado Cup this year?
So, if, like you said, we don't know who's going to be in it. But if I had my druthers of who would be in it and who would win it, it would be Mercury Yaden. He got screwed out of the main event of Milestone, out of that title match, by Marty Casales, Curtis Cole, and that POS lawyer. Yeah. So what better to do is go in and win the Colorado Cup and earn himself a title shot again, just that way, that quickly. But with it all being on the same night, if he has to go through all that and then later on the main card of Milestone face Curtis Cole, that might be a daunting task. So that's something that would have to be kind of, weigh the good and the bad of. Because what if Yaden, draws number 5, gets all the way down to the end and loses? So not only does he not accomplish winning it, now he's been in the match for 40 minutes and now has to wrestle again later in the night against the Curtis Cole, who may not enter the Colorado Cup because he might want to try to stay fresh for Yaden. Yeah. So there's a lot going to it there. But, if I had to pick one person to win it, that would be Mercury Yaden.
Well, that's fascinating. I think that would be weird. It would be kind of crazy, like you said. It'd be basically, if he did win it, it'd be like him telling, everybody's like, yeah, you just can't keep me down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay up here. It's my company, and then heck, I mean, why can't I win? Why can't I be the champion of my company? I'm proving it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's worked before.
Yeah.
I mean, TNA's 20 years old now, and during the beginning of it, their champion for a lot of the time was Jeff Jarrett, the majority owner. And that was, that was done because who else but Jeff Jarrett knew who was going to be there every week to show up no matter what and put his best effort forth. Jeff Jarrett's the guy that's the majority owner is going to care about it more than anybody. So who's going to care more about being RMP champion and making sure RMP is in the right direction than the owner himself? So, so you also asked, like, who would I pop for if they came in as a surprise?
Yeah, like an RMP alumni that we haven't, or somebody that we haven't seen for a while, or just maybe even off the wall, talent that came in for the cup.
I'm trying to think right now of somebody that, I'm a big fan of Danger Dean, but I know he's, retired from in-ring competition. I think his body isn't going to handle it anymore. But obviously, if his music hits and he hops in the ring, I would kind of go crazy for that. But other than that, I mean, if we saw last year's Hall of Fame inductee Hoodlum jumping in, or Anaya who just showed up on AEW Dark, that would be, or Dark Elevation, whichever one it was. That would be pretty cool. We haven't seen those guys around in a while. But I mean, yeah, if Abaddon or Dozer or anybody like that, Sammy Six Guns, showed up, those would all be pretty cool as well.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the fantastic thing about these Rumble type of matches, is that you never know, and you can be almost guaranteed there's going to be some surprises.
Yeah, I mean, last year we had Sin Bodhi, which was really cool. So you never know. Maybe Sin Bodhi comes back. Maybe he brings friends, because Sin Bodhi knows everybody there is to know in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy that used to be a riding partner of Jake the Snake Roberts. He grew up best friends with Edge. I mean, so who knows?
Yeah, that's very, very true. Awesome. Well, Sunday, I think that might be a fantastic point to put on this conversation. I do want to thank you, of course, for coming on. Before I do let you go, tell the listeners, if they want to stay up to date with things that you're doing with either the Dudes or Belts, or if they want to maybe even follow you out there on the social media, where could they do that?
So on social media, I'm not overly active on anything other than Facebook. Facebook is under my real name, Jeff Walsh. I am on Twitter a bit, and I'm trying to get more and more active on that, and that's at Ginger Kid Jeff. I haven't gotten so active on the others, the Instagrams, the TikToks, and all those. Eventually, I will get into it more, but I'm of that age where it's still kind of hard for me to figure out. I'm not like old, but it's just like I don't dedicate my time to it. But then Dudes and Belts, where Dudes and Belts Chatcast on Twitch, 9 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Mountain, twitch.tv/Johnny Deathdrop. That's Sunday nights for the regular Dudes and Belts Chatcast. We also do Dudes and Belts Recharge, which is right after RMP's Charge. They raid on right over to twitch.tv/Johnny Deathdrop. We go live at what time would that be? That starts at what?
10 p.m. Mountain, midnight
Eastern.
Right?
Yeah, I'm usually kind of still, it's late for me, so I'm not paying attention to the clock as much. And then I don't know the exact times for Ignition and Reignited, because again, I'm not on that show, but you can check those out as well. See what we're doing. You're going to see us out. Check anybody that checks out Milestone this coming week. All the dudes will be out in Denver. in force, checking out Milestone. Maybe you'll see us get involved a little bit more than you think. Sorry,
that should sell some tickets.
Yeah, anybody who watched last year saw, both Coastal and Maki Pins were in the Colorado Cup, actually competitors in the Colorado Cup, trying to gain a shot at the Rocky Mountain Pro Championship. Triple I managed both of them. Didn't end well for either one of them, but they gave it their best effort, and they put their their foot out there and tested the waters.
Right, exactly, and then sometimes that's all you got to do, you know.
Right. You never know. Hey, underdogs win all the time. All the time. Anybody who watched the Kentucky Derby knows all about that. So you never know. Hey, even Maki Pin's got an elimination.
Right.
At the Colorado Cup last year. Yeah.
He took heed and watched his face and got his elimination.
Correct. That was good. I like that.
Sunday, thank you once again for coming on. I'm excited to see you and the rest of the dudes this upcoming week for Milestone Week at Rocky Mountain Pro, and hope everybody else is as well.
Well, thank you, Mr. Fourth Row, for having me on, and I can't wait to see you guys.
Once again, a big, huge thank you to the Sunday Night Savior for coming on to this edition of the RMP Radio and introducing himself to all of our listeners. A lot of you already do know him from the Dude and Belt Chatcast on the Johnny Death Drop channel on twitch.tv/Johnny Death Drop. All right, well, so before we get out of here, like we have been doing this last few episodes, let's make sure we do get some bills paid. You want to get some merchandise of your favorite Rocky Mountain Pro superstars, head over to rmpwrestling.com, click on that merch link, or if you're in the Amazon app or the Amazon.com, search for Rocky Mountain Pro. You'll be presented with a lot of great, fantastic choices, if I must say. And then, of course, hit up the merch table at each and every one of our shows. You'll see those in-show exclusives, as we're calling them, that you can only pick up while you're live and in person at one of our shows. Now, events. We are, at the time of this recording, this episode is being edited. We have just finished our Top Taco event in Westminster, Colorado. It looked like it was a fantastic event, another event that Rocky Mountain Pro has gone to, and we are doing, as of the time of this recording, we are doing 100 plus events this year. Tell me what other independent pro wrestling company has done that many in 1 year. It's absolutely fantastic and crazy exciting at times, if I must say, working on this side of the business. Now, we also got, at the time of this recording, we got Milestone. It is so close. The march to Milestone is practically done. We are there. I hope you guys have gotten tickets to that. If you haven't, please head over to rmpwrestling.com, click on that events link, get your tickets there. And then, of course, always, if you're following your Rocky Mountain Pro superstars out on the socials, find that link that they're presenting to you as well. They have been hitting that hard and fast this last few weeks, so you should not be missing that link to order those tickets for Milestone 12. Now, if you're unable to come to Milestone in person, we totally understand, but we don't want you to miss it. That's why we have partnered with Fight TV to put on the pay-per-views, and you can order them from Fight TV. Now, we also have a lot of our talent putting out that direct link to get right into Milestone 12 instead of having to go into Fight.tv or the Fight app and search for it. You just got the link right there, and you'll just be able to go right there, click on purchase, and bam, you're done. And you know, the fantastic thing about Fight TV is when you order these events, you get to keep them forever, and you can watch them back as many times as you would like. I like to always watch the previous year's milestones heading up to Milestone, the current version of the Milestone, or whatever number we're at, to see all the fantastic things that have happened, especially when I got introduced to Rocky Mountain Pro at Milestone 7, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wow. Can you believe it has been that many just in my time of being introduced into this wacky world of professional wrestling and attending shows and the such? I mean, that's just crazy. Now, of course, we do want to remind you that, of course, that very next night, we're going to record our next set of Charged episodes. We get 2 sessions there. Again, same thing. rmpwrestling.com. Click on the events link. Follow your Rocky Mountain Pro superstars, your talent, your etceteras. They are presenting those links to you as well, so you're gonna be able to see that fallout from Milestone 12. And then, of course, the rest of the events page will have the upcoming shows that we've got coming up. Of course, we're gonna always be back at Bierstadt and Romero's, and a lot of things that we got coming up in the future. So stay abreast with Rocky Mountain Pro on the events link on our website and of course on our social media. Now, want to watch all this, like I've been kind of saying, twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro. That's where you'll catch Ignition and Charged, the watch-alongs on Thursday night especially. And then, of course, with those, do visit Johnny Deathtrap's channel on twitch.tv and you'll see Recharged and Reignited after those shows. So you'll be able to see their take on the episodes that have just played that particular day, that particular night, and we'd love to have you guys get in the chat room and converse with the dudes, and then of course converse with us. Now, of course, with on our Twitch channel, you now need to be a subscriber to actually chat. Ignition is completely free, and we would, as well as Charged, just need to be subscribed to chat with the on-air talent, the commentators, or whoever's doing the watch along, for example, on Charged. And then, of course, everything else with the watching the Rocky Mountain Pro. Of course, we would like you also to watch youtube.com/Rocky Mountain Pro. Give us a thumbs up. Tell us what you think about that particular episode. If we like what you have to say, you may be getting a special recognition and highlighted with your message. And then, of course, you can also watch all of our episodes on the before mentioned Fight TV as well. Now, we also want you to follow us out there on the interwebs and the social media. That can be done at rmpwrestling.com, and then on the social medias of the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram of the Rocky MTN Pro. I'll phonetically once again spell that to you. That is the Rocky Mike Tango November Pro. And as always, thank you for listening to RMP Radio, where pro wrestling is elevated.